says it takes a lot of courage to cry the real tears. And if we allow our hearts to be moved and to be even broken with the brokenness of other people, when I allow myself to see with compassion this person that is actually being my aggressor, because you know, this aggression that he is showing to me is actually, he's actually screaming how much he needs help and how much he wants to be heard and acknowledged or validated. You know, what would happen if I see him with compassion instead of with this defensive spirit of leave me alone, you know? If we had the courage to cry with the cries of this person, then we would see, right, the disarming power of tears. And then the sixth element, the sixth principle of vulnerability is the adventure of trusting. And with this, I can also finish with another story. I don't know if I told you this story, because I know I told you so many stories in the formation sessions that we've had, but many years ago, when I lived in Mexico, there was this couple that I would visit every once in a while. I would go to this city once a month, right? Like just like I come here to Philly. Well, I come here more than once a month, but anyway. So when I went to visit them, it was this beautiful couple. They had been married for like 30 years and beautiful. Like they had this very sweet romantic relationship as if they were just dating, you know? And then I asked them, hey, have you always been like this? And they're like, no, Carla. There's a long story behind. I'm like, oh, I want to hear more about it. Have I shared this story?
Yeah.
Okay. So then they start telling me all this story where they're like, yeah, we've been married for 30 years, but only the last 10 years he has been sober. She told me, right? Because then I had to be dealing with this man that was an alcoholic man, and I've been always close to God, and I was this woman of faith, and I would go to daily mass praying for the conversion of my husband, and just like trying my best and trying to be as patient as possible. But of course, it's not easy to deal with that drunk man that comes and just like smells bad and is so demanding and doesn't care and disrespectful and all these things, right? So then there was this one night where she was waiting for him and he wouldn't arrive, and he finally arrived like at 3 a.m. And so she's so upset, right? And she was just waiting for him praying. And then he arrives and he's just like shutting doors and doing all this, you know, like just like bumping with just like making a mess and all smelly and throwing up. And she was just like so grossed up and upset. She's like, Jesus, I think it's time for me to move on. I can't continue with this guy. Like, this is too much for me, right? And then he went to bed. And she just stayed praying. She just needed to pray and pray. And then she felt early in the morning that Jesus was asking her, go and prepare breakfast for him. She's like, I'm not gonna do that. God, you're supposed to be on my side. You know? Like, why are you doing this to me? She was a woman of prayer, okay? I want to clarify this because it's an example that I'm giving that doesn't apply to every case. I would actually not recommend that in many cases. I would tell the woman, no, let him do his own thing. But in this case, she discerned and she saw in prayer that God was asking her to make breakfast for him. So she was very virtuous. She went to the kitchen, she prepared a little tray. She goes, knocks at the door. She's opened the door. Honey, I prepared this. I think that you needed to feel better, right? And then he just turns around, opens his eyes, and he stands up, all mad. Throws a tray and just yells at her, leave me alone, I need to rest, get out of here. Oh my goodness, right? She went down to her, she had a prayer corner, she's like sobbing and she's so mad at God. Of course, I would also be very mad, right? So she's like, God, you are so mean to me, like why are you doing this to me? This is not fair, I'm done, right? And then she's like breathing and she starts calming down and she feels the Holy Spirit starts to come back, and she hears in her heart that the Holy Spirit tells her, go and prepare breakfast again. Go and prepare that tray even with more love. She's like, no, I won't do that. And again, I would not recommend this. If I was your spiritual director, I would need to hear more to see what I would recommend, right? But I just found these like extremely heroic. Anyway, she did it. And she went and even put a little flower there, like all her feminine touch. And she said, so she arrives shaking, of course, right? Her legs are shaking. She's like, I'm gonna be beaten up. She knocks at the door and she's there like, honey, I really think that you need this breakfast. I know that you will feel better with this. And he just comes out of the bed. He kneels before her and he starts crying. And he starts yelling at her, why are you still with me? Don't you see that I don't deserve you? I am trying to push you away because you don't deserve this. You deserve to go and make a new life away from me. I deserve to be all by myself because I am this, you know, and he just starts talking horribly about himself, sharing with her how broken he feels and how much he has been struggling with the alcohol and how much he wants to overcome the addiction. It was the first time that he actually recognized it. So, and she said, I was standing up with the tray and he was there kneeling before me, hugging my leg as a little kid, you know, and just like, please forgive me, but you gotta leave. You cannot stay with me, you deserve more than this. And there, reconciliation started to happen. He went into a rehab center, he got rid of the, you know, you never get rid of the addiction, but he stopped drinking. And they were now this beautiful couple. And it's like, wow, the adventure of trusting. What an adventure, right? And here I just highly recommend, again, it's discernment, it's prayer. You cannot just trust. Because then I also met this other lady. It was funny because years after this testimony, I met this lady that her husband would cheat on her once and again, and he wouldn't care. And in that case, I did recommend her, leave him. If he continues arriving to your house at 3 a.m., change the, how do you call it, the lock of your door. Like, your house deserves respect. You have 2 teenage daughters. They are suffering with this. So you shouldn't allow him to be like that because you are responsible for his salvation. And if you give in to him doing that, you are consenting that he commits those sins once and again. And she didn't pay attention to my advice, and then he left her and got married to this other lady, and it's a mess, you know. And her daughter became a drug addict. Now I think she's doing better, but you see the consequences, right? So here it's a lot of, in this trust, I would say, don't just use your human trust. It's trust that is grounded in prayer, in discernment, in finding a good spiritual director, in having those conversations with God, with your spiritual director, with people that can give you actually good advice, so that you can get the right level of trust that is not just like, oh no, I need to cling to my husband because I can't live with him. Well, you have a problem. You should be able to live without him, because his salvation is more important than you having him with you, you know? But then how much you can trust up to the point that he will be actually challenged, and that maybe you will be hurt a little bit, but you will also be healed, and your dignity will not be diminished. So it's very tricky, and it does require a lot of discernment, but it's an adventure. And then when you see the outcome, it's so beautiful. So imagine how beautiful if we were to exercise these 6 principles in our lives, right? The 6 principles of vulnerability. So anyway, it's time for you to go to your small group discussions. But thank you so much. I just want to say I enjoyed so much sharing these things with you. And thank you for inviting me.